evening, and welcome to the Heikadelic Show. We would like to take this moment to let you know that viewer and listener discretion is strongly advised. So sit back, have yourself a nice cool drink or hot drink, and enjoy the show. And welcome once again to the Heikadelic Show.
Hey!
Whoa! Hey, how's it going?
Good.
This is so funny. You know, no Heiko.
Yeah.
No, you know what? And that's unusual, but he's having a connection problem, so he dialed in and he can connect with his phone. But yeah,
Deborah's first tonight.
Oh, Deborah!
And then we have my friend Melanie from Bannock Shack. The awesome parties out in the summer and Halloween. You
gotta hook us up with those parties. Well, I hooked up with the Friday night party. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll hook you up with parties, man. I have no problem doing that.
So, George, you have a new office overlooking the CN Tower, or
yeah.
It depends on what part of the world you're sitting in right now, because we hear it's flat, right? So, and our guest tonight, and I've been trying to get a good position on this camera, but there might be something to it, this whole flat Earth concept, right? But we're going to talk about that a little bit. And I have some questions for these guys.
One or two.
Some research on the interwebs. But yeah, this should be really interesting. I've heard a lot of good things about all of that theory.
Well, that's it. It's when I first heard about David, is his name. I never really even gave it a thought before, to tell you the truth. I never, honestly, I never thought of it. And then after watching about he's got this 13 episode thing.
Yeah,
it's like 5.5 hours. It made some valid points, right?
Yeah.
You got to go, Scotty?
Yeah, 1 second.
Yeah, no. So it really did. It made me think. Brought up some valid points that I had never thought of. But anyways, George, how was your week, bud?
Quiet Christmas. Starts again on Wednesday. People coming over
again on Wednesday.
Yeah. Nice. Well, the proper one, because
Hey guys, sorry about that. I don't usually take calls, but. What are you drinking, George?
Tonight, just for a change, one of my old favorites from a while ago, Sleeman's. Sleeman's Honey Brown.
You want to know something? That was one of the few beers I drank.
It's the Honey Brown
of Sleeman's. There was that and a lager that I liked.
Oh, I like Sleeman's.
Yeah.
Goes down much too easy, though.
They say that was Al Capone's beer of choice.
A little logo right here.
Yeah.
A little moose head.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Actually,
do you get a shirt with that?
Cool.
When Sleeman's first came out, I think it was like 98, 99. The Honey Brown, I mean, anyway.
Yeah.
I used to really like it. And this was the days when liquor stores and beer stores didn't open on Sundays.
Yep.
And I was doing a gig out in Oakville. And so on my way out, I got like a 12-pack of Honey Browns for Sunday, right? Because I was going to watch soccer and everything. Anyway, that was the night my van got stolen outside the gig. And I came out and the van had gone. So anyway, my friend came over and we packed my gear into his van and everything. He goes, George, I'd be really pissed off. I go, yeah, I am. I said, but the worst part of this is, I said, Miss Sleeman's was in it. And I've got no beer for tomorrow. So
yeah.
Yeah, I hope it choked him anyway, but yeah. But that was
Hope you got a DUI.
that's right.
So how's your week, Derek?
My week was pretty good. Yeah, I had Christmas. It was awesome. Kids were happy. They got spoiled. We had a good time with family. Okay, you know how a lot of family gatherings, there's usually always somebody who's grumpy or somebody. Didn't have that this year. You know what I mean? So maybe I was the grumpy guy, but no, it was a good Christmas. It was good. It was good. Man.
Yeah, you got lots of nice presents.
Relaxing. I got pills for my kidney stones, so that made me even feel even better.
Oh.
Well, like my Christmas Eve was kind of good because I guess I was kind of. What was the Christmas Eve? Yeah, Christmas Eve. I was here at the ranch by myself with my dogs, and that was good. Speaking of which, one's getting up now. But yeah, and then Saturday, did the whole turkey thing Saturday, and then Sunday, just more turkey. So, but kind of refrained from going to big gatherings because of the more recent events happening out there. And now it's interesting, not to get in the whole lockdown thing again, but or hopefully there is no lockdown, but the numbers have been record highs. And now I've got a lot of very, very close friends that have got COVID. And it just seems to be happening everywhere.
Is the jab working then?
Well,
I know everybody tells me that jab is not so people get sick, right? Or so it stops them from being sick. It is so you don't die.
Right.
So it makes it,
Well,
it's severe.
Yeah, I see. I don't know what the numbers are today, but
how many more people have they tested today than they did last week?
There's probably a whole bunch of questions around that. But at the rate it's going up, the ERs, or not the ERs, but the ICUs seem to be, and again, this is going back a couple of days ago, but seem to be pretty flat.
Yep.
So that might suggest that the vaccine is actually working and making, the symptoms and the things that you're dealing with a lot less compromising. So
I was in the hospital last week, and they literally there was 4 people in there, like 4 patients,
right?
So not COVID. They were all like I was in for a CT scan, and I'm good looking. Wow. Yeah, it puts it down right away. No, but yeah, it emerge, right? There was one guy being seen, one guy getting triaged, and another guy in the waiting room.
Well, the problem with it is that that people like the flu and common cold doesn't take a vacation when COVID hits, right? So you could have the possibility of anything from a cough to complicated symptoms put you in a situation where is it COVID or isn't COVID? So now they got the rapid test, which people have been lining up in droves, and I was going to head up to Uxbridge and grab one, but I understood that one that was supposed to be on a particular day last week, I think it was Thursday or Friday, ended up at 1 a.m. in the morning, and it's sold out by 7 a.m. Not sold out, but it was depleted.
Yeah, it was done.
And those are freebies. So I'm like, screw this. I went on the site. I bought the exact rapid test. I think it's rapidtest.ca or whatever. And I went out and paid $175 for 5 of them. So I had to go up to Concord and get them from there. But it's the exact one that gets used. So and we used a couple just to make sure that we were free of that. But
my son has to take them. He's got the 5-pack.
Yeah, the 5-pack they give out at schools.
There was a case in his school, so he has to do it.
Yeah.
Stick it up the nose and just give it a rub.
Ring goes muted.
You're at blah, 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 blah. You got the volume. Here you go. No mic. Your mic's muted, Ringo. Your mic's muted.
You know what? My mic was muted.
Yeah. Blah, blah, blah.
I could hear you guys.
I wasn't doing the duck dance.
I'm old. My eyesight's going. But so the thing there is that you gotta. They've had like false positives, and from what I understand, that there's not a lot of false negatives that come up, right? So so it's very reliable. They use it in hospitals and senior homes and everything else, but it's not the be all end all. You have to go for the other, brain tickler tests to be sure. However, those now there's almost a 7-day lead time on them, right? So that gets pretty concerning.
Hey, we have somebody in the green room.
We do. We have Dave in the green room. So is
we
Matt
got Dave there? I thought Heiko was there too.
Oh yeah, there's Heiko.
Yeah.
He looks a little flushed today. Hi.
Hey,
Michael.
I've been here for a while and I'm waving and shit, and it's like nobody's watching.
Yeah, no. We just wanted to have a smooth intro. So
Okay, all right. Hey, everybody! Welcome to the Heikadelic show. How's everybody?
You were doing this, and
oh shit, I'm too late for that.
So, like, we weren't sure what you were doing there. So
seems that we just introduced Heiko. You want to bring Dave on too? We might as well just get everybody.
Might as well get Dave in here. So
yeah.
So our guest tonight, we're going to talk about. We kind of introed it a little bit, but flat earthers. That's the subject for tonight. So it's
the flat Earth podcast is his podcast.
Yeah, and we've got the link for that on our site. So if you go into tonight's episode, you'll see that up on there, and you can click in and get a bunch of their podcasts up and running. So very interesting topic.
Yes.
I did some research here.
Wow.
28 pages double-sided, though. I didn't want to kill too many trees for all you.
It's like you wrote your essay.
Yeah, pretty much. No, this is, I really enjoy, topics like this because it's, I probably have a pretty open mind.
Yes.
But I'm also I'm probably on the side of science with a lot of it, but I, believe in UFOs and everything else. So it's, but there's some science here, like I'd really like to understand. And having piloted gliders in the past in ground school and all of that, you have a different, perspective on things. I certainly wouldn't agree out of the chute that it's a flat Earth, but we'll discuss that. I'm yet to be convinced, so that'll be good.
Some people's idea of a flat Earth is not. We'll let David explain it. But,
I got a ton of questions, but
okay. But what we'll do, we'll bring him in, we'll introduce him quick, and then I need George to do something for me.
Oh,
George,
you've done it already.
I know, but I missed it.
Okay.
So when he gets in, all right. Who's going to introduce him?
Welcome, Dave.
Dave, Mr.
All
Dave
right.
White.
Here we go.
Oh, he's on mute. There we go.
I'm good now. Hey, what's going on, guys? You are triggering me so many different ways this Sunday from listening to the first 10 minutes of your show. I don't know which direction to start with. From the COVID stuff, which maybe we'll get into that at the end a little bit. Let's talk about flat Earth a little bit.
Because that can just go like every direction, right? So why don't you first introduce yourself to our fans and give us a little quick brief thing about what you do.
60 seconds. So I did a podcast called Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole for 3 years, talking about all the different conspiracies, all the different deceptions rather than conspiracies.
Can you turn the light on?
And from the New York event, Connecticut, Boston, all of this stuff, exposing the heck out of all of it. And then flat Earth was brought up to me, and I, like everyone else, laughed at it, said it's ridiculous. There's science proves the Earth is a globe. No science proves the flat Earth. And then finally I went in to debunk it with the attitude, it doesn't exist, it's wrong, and I'm going to prove it wrong. Close mind. And for 2 weeks, nonstop, barely slept at all. I was trying to find one proof of the globe, and that was 5-6 years ago now. And now I've quit my own company. I've doing this full time because the reason the world is in the hypnosis, walking around with face diapers on their face, willing to get poisons injected into their sacred bloodstream, is because their minds are lost in space, spinning out of control. So, why
Wow.
does flat Earth matter during this insane time that we walk in? It is that we live in. It is the most important topic ever because it's the one that keeps us in the mind matrix. You know, the documentary with Keanu Reeves? It's a documentary. His mind is plugged into the matrix. He doesn't know what's going on. And he started to wake up a little bit. He's like, something's wrong with the world. And he was depressed. And then finally, he got unplugged from the matrix and he took back his power. That's what we all need to do. We need to wake up from this spell that they've put over us and take back our power, which can easily be done. The problem is so many people are lost. There's 30% of the people are completely brainwashed out there, will do anything government says. 40% of the people are like, I'm not sure. I'm going to kind of do, what I think is going to be best. And then the rest of the people are wide awake. Wait, did I get that right? 30% are sleeping. Yeah, 40% don't know, and the other 30% are wide awake and aware and doing everything they can, like myself, to help wake up others. So anyway, that was a little long.
You're saying you believe 30% of people believe in flat Earth?
Well, that's a great question. So I was kind of using those numbers for COVID. But
okay.
I think we're approaching 30% of the world knows that the Earth is flat. There's so many people. It's harder and harder to find a show to go on where people like, no way, the Earth is definitely a ball and you're an idiot. Those are the shows I want to go on. You guys even wrote, I'm not so sure. We have questions. That's awesome. You guys are already flat Earthers. You just don't know it yet. And maybe by the end of the show, you're going to have enough questions answered where I don't even want you to call yourself a flat Earther because that's the wrong term. You can call yourself a level earther, but you don't even have to do that. You have to just say, there's a problem with the globe. It doesn't make any sense scientifically. I heard one of you talking about science. Well, there is zero science that supports the globe. Zero. And one of you said you have 20 pages, awesome, of questions. Let's attack those questions one at a time.
Well, the first question I just want to get out of the way for everyone, because this is the first thing that people say to me. What is flat Earth? Is it just flat? Is it just like a record spinning, right?
Good answer. Good question. So we're not a disc floating in space. You have been programmed into believing you live in a globe with zero proof. Just a lying guy in a bow tie told you. And then you've also been programmed to think flat Earth is something else. This is a live video from 120,000, not live right now, but this is a video from a balloon, 120,000 feet. Airplanes fly at 35,000 feet, and people claim they see the curve. This is at 120,000 feet. The Earth is supposed to be spinning 1,000 miles an hour below me, and the Earth is supposed to be curved, but it's not. It's flat as can be. So what is flat Earth? Well, this is not flat Earth. This is what, if you Google flat Earth, this is what you're gonna see. We're the only flat disk planet, and all of the other planets are balls. Or nobody believes that. No flat earther believes that. Nobody believes that. Nobody believes
Uranus is round.
Yeah, nobody believes that. Nobody believes that they're all flat planets. Nobody believes in that at all. So if we're not a disk floating in space, what are we? And the way I like to describe it is we live in the Antarctic basin. What does that mean? Okay, Antarctica is not a continent at the bottom of the Earth. Okay, it's not a continent at the bottom of a ball, right?
Okay.
We're told that this is Antarctica. We are told one piece of truth, that it's the highest land on Earth. Okay, so Antarctica, the floor of Antarctica is the highest land on Earth. That's very interesting. So what do you need to contain a pond, a lake, or an ocean? You need a container. You need land that's higher than the water, because if it was lower than the water would spill out. Well, Antarctica is the shoreline that surrounds our world pond. It is the shoreline that holds our water in. We live here in what I call the world pond, and our sun circles around, our sun and moon just circle around above us, very close, very small. So that's what flat Earth is. Now there's hills and valleys. I call it topographical Earth, but water lays flat. Water is level. Large bodies of water at rest lay flat, scientifically provably, measurably flat. And if you hang a plumb bob anywhere along that ocean, a plumb bob, it will be at a right angle to that water. And in Australia, it doesn't go up. In Argentina, it doesn't go sideways. Okay, Ecuador, right? Everything goes down and the water is flat.
All right.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yes.
Is how thick is our flatness? Because the oceans, they've already proven that they're miles and miles deep.
Yeah.
There's obviously a bottom to the oceans. That's got to have some thickness to it. So,
well,
you know what I mean?
They drilled down, what was it, 7 kilometers or something?
Yeah, so the deepest hole, whether the Earth is flat or a globe, the deepest hole ever dug is short of 8 miles. It's just like 7.5 miles. And they dug down and they hit a barrier that is impenetrable. They can't get through it. Too hot, too hard, whatever the story is, they can't get below it, right? So nobody knows what's below 8 miles. And they use ground penetrating radar to guess what they were going to hit next. And it was wrong every step of the way. They're like, no more rocks, no more water, no more, whatever. And it was wrong. All right. And then they got through just the less than 8 miles. That's like drilling halfway through the skin of an apple, right? They were wrong halfway through that skin, but somehow they know what the next 4,000 miles is. That's ridiculous. Okay. So all of these memes we see of the molten magnetic core, which is also ridiculous. You heat a magnet up before it melts, it loses its magnetism. So we can't have a molten metal core. They just mock us with everything. Okay. Mm-hmm. So they couldn't tell you what was in the skin of the apple, but they can tell you what's at the core of the apple. That's pseudoscience. That is scientism. That is nonsense.
So Dave, let's just answer a couple of questions some people have here. So Kathy's saying, so what do the astronauts see from the space station?
Yeah, so the International Space Station, I call it the International Fake Station because it doesn't exist, and we could actually prove that because there's a million things. So let me see where we go here. So just everything they show us from the space station, right? This is from an airplane and the space station. Right? Mm-hmm. Look, the space station, which is 50 times higher than an airplane, why does it look almost like the same thing? Why do they have a clearer view of the lights? This is just a fisheye lens from an airplane. That's all they show us. Okay. When here is now this is gonna make you think just a little bit. So an airplane, a 747 and the ISS are about the same size. Well, an airplane flew across the moon and the ISS, the thing that we call an ISS, transited the moon. And both these moons are about the same size. So we can deduct that whatever these objects are, they're about the same size. Well, we've never seen the ISS. We've only been told what it is. Okay. But we have seen the 747. So whatever this is, it's about the size of a 747, and it's about the same height as a 747, unless it's smaller and closer. Okay, so
that's what I was going to say. If you look at the size on the picture, it's about the same size as a plane, but that thing's supposed to be up in space, correct?
No, yeah. So think about this. If you ever see a 747 on the ground, it's gigantic, right? You stand next to it, you feel like a little ant. But then you watch a 747 at cruising altitude, it's a tiny little dot, but smaller than a pencil eraser held at arm's length. And it's kind of gray because it's so far away. You can see the outline of the plane, but you can't identify the engines. You can't see the engines themselves, right? Because they're too small, right? But the ISS is 50 times farther away. And somehow we can see that. That's ridiculous. That's That's a belief system. Belief is the enemy of knowing. So, and then somehow, the ISS, that is the most constructed, the most biggest technological construction project ever, right? There are 0 pictures of it being built, 0 videos of it being built. It would be videoed. Mission control would be like, move this, move that, connect this, do that. Nothing. It just appeared in space. And now there's a Chinese one up there all of a sudden. And if you watch of any of the video inside them, it's just absolute ridiculousness. I'm going to show you a few things inside of them because this is a
what are they then? Just like super satellites or something, or what?
No, well, again, satellites is another myth that's going on up there. And I used to like when I'd be in the Caribbean, I would look up at the stars and there's a satellite, and I track the satellite. A satellite is like the size of maybe a Volkswagen Bug car, right? So maybe the size of a jet engine, right? It's up 200 times higher than an airplane. How the hell am I seeing it? How am I seeing it with my naked eye when I can't see I can barely see the airplane itself at at 1/200th of the distance, right? So we are seeing lights in the sky. We don't know what they are. We don't know if they're natural. We don't know what they are. The only thing that you can say about the lights that we see in the sky is they're lights. We don't know anything about them other than, that's an airplane. I could actually get the flight number. I tell you what model airplane it is, tell you how big it is. And from that, I can deduct the distance. But anything else that we don't know, you don't know. Like when we see Jupiter, we're told it's this giant, almost sun-sized planet. And when in reality, it's just a light in our sky. It could just be a few miles up, right?
Yeah.
We sent a balloon up in Arizona in a beautiful clear night, and we had the cameras facing up, high def cameras. And before it even took off, it had a beautiful star-filled sky. Well, as it goes up, you would expect the stars to get clearer and clearer and more. Even though the sky was already clear, because the higher you get, the clearer the air is going to be. By the time it got to 40, 50, 60,000 feet, all of the stars were gone. Try to explain that in a heliocentric, world.
So did the balloon come back?
Oh, yeah, it came back and we got the footage from it and everything, but all of the stars disappeared. I flew to Hawaii once, and at nighttime I was so excited to look out at the stars over the ocean. When I looked out, I saw like 2 friggin' stars. Right, they're probably even wandering stars, aka planets.
Sure.
And I was really bummed. I'm like, I just couldn't figure it out. And that's long before I ever put it together. I was just like, well, I guess it's the glare in the window, all sorts of stuff. So
Dave, just sorry to interrupt. We're just getting flooded with questions here, but so AJ is saying, why do we have time zones? If we were flat, the sun would come up and rise the same time over flat Earth.
Yeah. All right. So let's do it. Let me just real quick. We have propaganda like Will Smith, talking to the guys at the space station. But if you watch this guy carefully, when the next cut, when he comes by, watch, he's transparent, right? Here he comes, and his head is transparent right there, right?
Right.
It's because this is an edited, nonsensical, made up video, and this happens all the time because look, his head is transparent right there, right? So he's edited in. This guy too, his head is transparent. Something up about being in space. You get transparent astronauts, okay? And then they're always screwing around with kids. Look, this is a real ball filled with helium, but that now that it's there is a augmented reality object. She's manipulated.
I had to pull it.
Yeah, and it's a computer generated object. It's not really there. It's called augmented reality. And this is just a program. This is what she's seeing. She either has contact lenses or a screen behind the camera, and she's maneuvering things in real time, just like they do in movies.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So there's endless. We have endless screw ups. This guy dropped the ball. Why did it fall? And then this guy can't reach him because his harness wouldn't let him get there.
Well, and also, don't pick it up because it dropped, right?
Yeah. They're like what the hell?
Yeah.
There's so many. Wait, one more, and then I'll go to your next question. These guys are in different rooms, right? So this is Chris Hatfield. He's singing And this guy's holding the microphone, but he misplaces where Chris is, and he sticks the microphone into his neck, and nobody notices. It's inside of his neck, right?
Oh,
Because this is
interesting.
all green screen nonsense, made up crap.
He doesn't even look the same size as the other guys.
Right? They get that screwed up all the time. They get all sorts of stuff like that.
But
All
I
right,
mean,
so-
let's be real though. Like, I mean, his mustache doesn't even look real.
Well, not
You're right.
I mean, unfortunately,
I
it
don't
probably
remember
is
him
real.
posing with Dirk Diggler at any point in time, but you know, it doesn't.
I get the reference. I'm with you. What was the next question?
So
That was AJ's question. He had a good one about the time zones.
yeah.
Okay, so people say, if the Earth was flat, we'd see the sun all of the time. So first, we got to talk about sunsets, all right, and talk about how sunsets work, and then I'm going to show you how time zones work. So I'm going to show you a quick demonstration I did. Oops, that's the wrong one. This is the one I want. So this is my flat Earth kitchen. Now I have this line here, and we're viewing it from what I call a celestial point of view, right? This is the path that the sun takes, and I'm viewing it from the height of the sun. So it looks like a straight line. Now this right here, this can be a city skyline. It could be mountain range in the distance, or it could just be density of atmosphere becoming opaque. And you'll see that the sun never goes below it. Now I have a camera on the other side on the counter, on the flat Earth counter, looking up as this goes away. Here's the same thing from the other point of view. And if I showed you this line first, you would say it's not level, it's going down. And this sun is going below this mountaintop, this skyline, right? Yeah. So, and I zoom in more, look at the line. This is a level line. And this, because it's in the distance, it looks like it's at your eye level, but we know it's way above the camera. So now we're going to compare that to a real sunset. This is a real sunset. Now, you'd think the sun's going to go behind this line, but it's not. It's going behind this. This is called atmospheric deck of opacity. It's just where the atmosphere, when you're looking across it, becomes opaque and the sun goes beyond it. If you were higher, you would still see the sun. You would still see the sun. So now let's talk about time zones. I'm going to pull up my my app. So here we go. So
does the sun just go back and forth?
No. So here it is. Great question. Here we go. So I'm right here in the Northeast. So this is noon for me. When the sun's here, it's noon. So here's the sun, and it's almost over this yellow line. It's actually working its way back in. So you got two yellow lines here. Let me make this little. Well, actually, I'm going to keep it like this because it helps if I point. So the sun is the hour hand on a clock. Wherever the sun is, it's noon. So right now it's noon in South America on the Venezuela, and now it's almost noon on the East Coast. Boom, noon on the East Coast. Now it's noon Central. Now it's noon Mountain. Now it's noon Pacific time. And the sun is rising in Australia as it approaches. It's coming back. Think of my flat Earth kitchen. It's coming back and it's rising higher. And right now, Australia is having their summer. You know why? Because the sun is directly above them. Look, it's directly above them. That yellow line is where the sun is on December 21st. And now it's migrating over the next 6 months back into this inner yellow line, which is, I'll make it a little bigger. This inner yellow line, which is the Tropic of Cancer. If I move the sun 6 months forward, 6 months forward, it's now our summer. So here the sun is rising and it's coming up on the East Coast here in America. And you know where it's hot? It's hot in Miami. Why is it hot in Miami in June? Because the sun is directly over Miami. It goes directly over them. They're right underneath it. At noon in Miami, there's no shadows on any sticks that are sticking straight up. And it's hot in California, Southern California, Mexico. And it's colder in Australia. Why? Because the sun is farther away from Australia, right? And so every 15 degrees is another time zone, right? So now why does Alaska get 24-hour sun in June? Because the sun never gets far enough away from Alaska, even when it goes all the way over here, when the sun is like Alaska's over, where am I? I'm over here. So Alaska's here and the sun is never too far away. Now it's actually, as it soon as it comes around here, it's now getting closer to Alaska and Norway. So they're in the sun all the time. It's only when the sun is farther away that its light doesn't reach the center, the inner. And here's the other thing. The center here, this is the North Pole, also known as the Arctic, right? The South Pole, there is no South Pole. On flat Earth, everything outside of our pond is Antarctica. Everything outside here is Antarctica. So that's the Antarctic. Now think about it. If you're here in the middle, inside of the Tropic of Cancer, the sun is arcing around you. I'll speed it up. The sun is arcing. See how it's arcing around me? Anyone inside of the Tropic of Cancer, the sun arcs around them because they're in the Arctic zone. And anyone outside the Tropic of Capricorn is in the Antarctic zone because the sun comes towards them and then it antarcs away. It doesn't arc around them. It antarcs. The Antarctic and the Arctic. So that's how time zones happen. And then one more thing. I was talking about seasons. They tell us that we have our seasons because the tilt of the Earth, we're tilted away, and so the sun spreads over a bigger area. That is the largest bull crap there is, the largest load of horse crap there is. Okay, because think about this: during our summer in the north, they tell us the sun is 3.5 million miles farther away. Okay, it's actually closer to us right now in December than it is in June and July, which is nonsense. Because in June, here in Connecticut, when I see the sun appear on the horizon, I can feel the heat on my face. That is the most severe tilt that it could be away from me, which is right at sunrise. But I can feel that heat on my face. But tomorrow, if I go out at noon, when the sun is at the highest point for the day, a more direct sun, also 3.5 million miles closer, I could look up and I could barely feel the heat on my face. That 100% negates the whole tilted season thing, right? It's because,
Dave,
yeah, go ahead.
To just kind of level up my brain for a second. So are you saying that the sun is rotating around us in some kind of comes closer to the center point and then backs? How does that work?
So again, the sun that we see is not a giant ball of gas like they tell us. The moon that we see isn't a giant rock floating in space. These are optical things. I think they're plasma, they're focus points of light. They're not physical objects. They're here, they're small, and we see them in a location relative to our own. So as somebody standing, a couple miles away from me is going to see the sun and the moon in a completely different position than I see it. It's kind of like looking at it like through a reflection. So let me see what I got here.
So maybe while you're answering that, because it kind of ties in, Kathy's asking about the astronomers seeing spherical shapes, other planets and stuff like that. So
yeah,
so the sun is more of an optic. How do you explain, I guess, once you get into the universe, you got planets, they look round as well, from what we're being told. And
okay, so here. So the first thing is, everybody listening, look up at the lights in your ceiling, look at them carefully and describe the shape of your floor. That's ridiculous, right? The lights in the ceiling have no bearing on the floor, but you've been completely hypnotized by Disney and NASA, which is the same thing, that they're giant worlds. Okay, so these are not planets. These are the bottoms of frying pans. Just so you know, they look better than some of the shit that NASA shows us. This is what NASA shows us. This is a famous picture of Saturn, right? Mm-hmm. And this is what anybody with a super strong zoom lens or telescope sees. These are not the same thing. These are paintings, okay? These are real images. And
I don't know, Dave, if I completely agree with that, because I don't have it anymore, but I used to have a friend who was right into astronomy. So I paid, I don't know, $4,000 or something for a very intense telescope, and I could see the curvature. So I don't. And the other thing was with the moon, for instance, you could see. I've got a map of the moon. I mean, you can get that easily online, but I have an older one that, for shits and giggles, I bought a plot one time on the moon, and I tried to find it through the telescope. Right, so it's this, it was complete entertainment. But they were selling off acres of land on the moon. So what was interesting was I could see that focal point through the telescope move. Right. So how would you explain that? I mean, it's not there to appeal to just me. It's there to, if there's some kind of ruse going on, it's a global one. It's not just for Ringo, right?
Yeah. So when you look up at the moon, and it's supposedly a single source point light, the sun is lighting up the moon. It doesn't light it up like a sphere. If it lit up like a sphere, there would be a hot spot, and then it would fade out. But the moon is pushing its own light. This is what, when we look at a full moon on a clear night, this is what it looks like. You can read by it in the middle of nowhere. It casts shadows on the ground. But when NASA shows us the moon transiting, from the Lagrange point, satellite 1 million miles away, how come it's not lit up here? How come the backside of the moon isn't lit up? Because the sun is behind the camera. It should be a full moon, right? So here's the thing. Getting back to the shape, right? I'm going to show you 4 moons, and you're going to tell me, is this a sphere? Well, it could have been. How about this one? Is this one a sphere? Right? It sure looks like a sphere, okay? But it's kind of lit up better than the moon is at a sphere, but it's not a sphere. It's flat. Is this a sphere? Okay? And when you look at this one, you're like, well, maybe that one is a sphere, but it's not. It's concave, okay? Right? So when you say, I look up at the sky and see things, when I look up at the sky and see things, see a shape, that tells me what shape the floor is. That's horrible, horrible, horrible reasoning, right? So when you where am I looking for? I was going to show you, where did it go? It's gone. Oh, there it is. Here it is. So unless you can touch it and see it, you can't tell what shape and size it is. Are these the same diameter, the same shape?
Yeah.
They're exactly the same, okay? But your eye sees it completely differently. So unless you can touch it and measure it, you don't know how far it is or how big it is. So again, when we look up at the sky, and when I look at Saturn, by the way, when I look at Saturn, I think Saturn looks very spherical to me, but it has nothing to do with the shape of the ground that I'm standing on, because Saturn is not a planet. And when you actually look, this is the only picture we have of Saturn that NASA shows us again and again and again. And when we take this old picture from their website, crank it up in Photoshop, you can see that it's crappily put together in layers. This is a constructed image, and they didn't expect us to have Photoshop when they had made this original image.
Right.
Okay. So that there shows you that they're faking everything. They're faking everything.
Okay, so back to the shape. So if I wrap my head around this a bit. So if you look at a snowball, like one of those crystal kind of things with you shake and there's snow in it. Okay. So if you thought of one of those with liquid in it, and you had a sort of a cookie or something floating in there, would that kind of represent what we're talking about here? So like we're not really we're flat, but this sort of atmospheric ball kind of rotates with us, almost like a compass, right? This concept of a ball compass, right?
Yeah, I'm with you. Go ahead.
Does that make kind of sense? Like, you know what I mean? And then obviously we have a thickness, right? And so is that thickness, like we said, the deepest part of the ocean is,
some people on Flat Earth, including myself, I believe there is some sort of firmament, some sort of dome over us, some sort of physical barrier enclosing us in this system.
Right.
And who knows what's below us? Maybe there's another firmament below us. Maybe there's other layers of existence, more dense existence below us, and more etheric, heavenly existence above us. I don't know, because I'm only here on this earth within this area. Anything outside of 60 degrees south, which is before Antarctica, is off limits. So I don't know. We can speculate what's out there. And anything above higher than we can reach is also, we'd have to believe NASA, and we can't believe NASA because we've seen their lies. Now, maybe the world is set up like this. We live here. This ring is Antarctica, and out here is extra terrain, extra territory, extraterrestrials, and they're out here in this outer space. We're here in the inner space. So an
maybe we're like
extraterrestrial from outer space could live right here across the Earth plane. Why are all the biggest telescopes on Earth in all of the southern lands? They're in Santiago, they're in in Johannesburg, they're in New Zealand. And why aren't they looking up? They're all looking south. South is out. South is every way.
All I can think of as you're explaining this is that movie Truman, right? With
I was just going to say that. Are we on the Truman Show?
Yeah, we
very well. It's we are in some sort of enclosure. Now, some people believe it's energetic. Some people, if you're a Bible literist, that it's glass-like. Page 1 of the Bible. Now, I'm not one to quote the Bible, but page 1 of the Bible said God separated the waters from the waters and created the firmament. I do believe that above us is more water. It's infinite. There's infinite water above us and below us. And that's kind of provable here, because if you drill down just a little farther than they allow you, you hit primary water. Muammar Gaddafi, one of the greatest leaders of all time, and we've been programmed to think he was a tyrant, he discovered what he calls what is it called? It's called I just spaced on name. It'll come to me in a second. Primary water below the desert, and he over 40 years built an aquifer system where he was pumping water all the way across Africa, giant pipes that you could drive cars through, and he was giving families the water, land, seeds, cattle, and organic farms were popping up all over Africa. It took him 40 years. It was the biggest aquifer project in known history. And when it was done, the United Nations, Hillary Clinton, and the rest of them went in and blew it up with depleted uranium bombs. Biggest crime in history. You never even heard of it.
Hillary Clinton. Sorry, that's just
they're in all the garbage, aren't they?
Yeah. The Clintons are in a lot. I keep on telling you that the Clintons are in a lot deeper than you think. But
so just before I forget, wait, you have a question? I want to talk about circumnavigation, but go ahead. Ask your question first.
It might have to do with what you just want to say. I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna get into a plane in Toronto, in Toronto, Canada, and I'm gonna fly due east. I'm gonna go off of the country of Canada, over the ocean. I'm gonna fly over a whole bunch of continents, and I'm gonna keep going in a straight line. I'm not gonna change direction, and all of a sudden, I'm gonna wind up over top of Canada again. How is that possible if it's a flat Earth?
Well, billions of people have done it traveling east-west.
Right.
0 people have done it traveling south-north.
Okay.
So how does it work on a flat Earth? And this is how it works. It's very simple. Open up your mind, because this isn't hard to figure out.
Okay.
The center of the flat Earth is our North Pole. It's magnetic. Excuse me. And so this is my boat, and my needle is pointing towards the north. Now, I'm trying to push this thing west, but I have to keep turning, correcting to the north to keep my needle pointing south. So I am dead reckoning 270 degrees. I want to go east, dead reckoning 90 degrees. I am following what I feel to be a straight path, but I'm going in a giant circle, and you don't even notice it. Because if I put you on a track 100 miles around, you would think you were driving in a straight line. Okay. But now, if I try to dead reckon west, dead reckon, which means do not turn the wheel once you start moving, I'm heading south already. I started off going west, and now I'm heading south. South is every line leading away from the center. Every straight line is south. Let that one sink in. Okay. Now, if I head south on a globe, as soon as I get over here, I should magically pop up over here. But nobody has gone south, like from Santiago, and popped up in Australia. No one has ever done it. Right? Now, I can go north, north, north. And as soon as I pass the North Pole, I'm now heading south. You see the compass just did a 180? Every straight line is south. And boom, I'm gone. Right? So there you go. That's how east, west, circumnavigation's done. Now,
So-
there was, wait, hold on, one last thing. There was a world, a guy that was going to go for the world record. He was going to do pole to pole circumnavigation. And we're like, okay. And we could track him. So we tracked him. Okay. So he went from the North Pole to Alaska. I'm not sure where he started, but we'll just stay here. He goes here, West Coast, went out to Hawaii, out here, Philippines, wherever this is, Santiago. Then he went here to the South Pole, supposedly. And they said the weather was too bad. So he turned around and came back and went up through Brazil. And we're like, well, that's it. It's over. He had to turn around. He didn't want to continue over. And he went up. And when he finished, Guinness Book gave him the record for circumnavigation, southern circumnavigation. Think about it. All he did was take this little trip. He went here, turned around, came back. He just took a little trip across this flat pond. He went out to the end of the street, touched the pole, turned around and came back. That's like on my straight street. I say, hey, I'm going to circumnavigate my street and not turn around. And I go to the end and I touch the pole at the end and I turn around, I come back. I touch the pole at the end, I come back and I say, look, I circumnavigated. No, I didn't. I went over there and I went over there and I came back.
Is that the reason why they have a no-fly zone in the Antarctic then?
Yeah. So in Antarctica, they have it's called the Antarctic Treaty.
Mm-hmm.
And it was put into place in 1959. Here it is, Antarctic Treaty. It was put in, supposedly the story is after Admiral Byrd flew out there and he said in the 1940s and 50s, he said, there's more land filled with resources that no human has ever set eyes upon. And then all of a sudden, we have to have a treaty. No one can go there. We have to protect the penguins and, and make sure the ice stays pristine. Meanwhile, environmentalism wasn't even a word. We're having war after war after war, fighting for resources. But
they lost the ship.
All of the countries in the world sign on to this eventually. And since 1959, it's been in place. It's still in place, which makes it the longest lasting treaty in world history. Okay. And you can't even question the treaty until the year 2041. No corporation, no country, nobody can do it. And if you try to go down there, you get turned around by warships, drones, right? And people are like, well, if it's such a big expanse, how could they possibly guard the whole thing? It's easy because there's islands. There's 7 islands, basically equally spaced all the way around, from the Falkland Islands all the way around, that have military bases run by the crown, and they're guarded all the time. And then there's buoys all the way around, which create a mesh network. Anybody gets past that 60 degrees south, they are immediately turned around. And if you look at Antarctica from space, it's the only place on Earth, or one, well, not the only, where you just get cartoons. You don't get nothing, right? All of the middle of Antarctica they never, ever, ever show you a picture. They'll show you some buildings, the bases around the edge and stuff. But there's only cartoons. And here's some fishermen that went out. I'll just jump forward here. They started approaching Antarctica, and all of a sudden, this warship shows up, radioing them. They must leave the area immediately. They sent a drone after them, and they said, turn around immediately and leave the area. Why is that?
Getting too close to the Truman Show producers.
Well, could they be doing drills?
Well, there could be a number of reasons, but we're getting flooded with questions here. So AJ, I'm going to put this back up because AJ has pointed out twice that AJ worked for a satellite launch company, and this is the next long comment, which is about, hey, they've done all of the tracking, so it appears that AJ believes that the world, the Earth is round. I would have the same question because I'm a Starlink owner, which is Elon Musk's experimental satellite network. So I have one of these dishes and mapped out the array and looked up online where all my programming comes from. But these are now a complete array around the Earth.
That's the story that they tell us. But in reality, NASA owns all of the helium companies in the world and is the largest consumer of helium, and they launch thousands of these things weekly. Okay.
Right.
These are satellites on balloons. They can control where they are. They're all over the earth. They're crashing all over the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And people are getting pictures of them. So what you're saying that you think are Elon Musk satellites could just as easily be balloons. NASA even says, or the not NASA, the satellite the satellite radio or TV companies say it's much more cost effective to use ground towers than it is to put a satellite up in space, right? And these balloons are up there all the time. I think they do most of this stuff with ground towers and undersea cables, because if you look up satellites, again, we talked about satellites earlier. You can't see them. No one has ever seen a photograph of satellite in space, right? Anytime you see a satellite, it's a friggin' cartoon, right? And again, we talked about you can't see the engine on an airplane from this height, but we can see a satellite 50 to 200 times farther away. That just think about that, right? Yeah. It doesn't, and then it doesn't make any sense. This is the latest. A satellite friggin' touches the sun. It's going in over 2,000 degrees, 500 times more radiation, and this thing, please put this in a 350-degree oven and let me see it work. Okay, yeah. All right. Yeah. This is all nonsense to make you think you live on a globe. 100% to make you think you live on a globe. Here's one. They're talking about it. Found an iron planet. Right. This is a cartoon. Right. But this is all. Just Google. Everyone listening right now. Google satellites from in space, and then click images, and you'll see that they're all cartoons. They're 100% cartoons.
So Dave Richard has he's basically saying Earth is not a globe. Okay, let's go with that. What are the edges of the Earth? Where there are no photos that depict any of the edges of the Earth.
So
that's a good question.
That's a very funny thing, because everyone says, show me the ice wall, right? Well, the ice wall is a deception put out by the Game of Thrones to make you think that it's an ice wall. What it is this shoreline of Antarctica, right? You don't fall off the edge of the Earth, because this is the edge of the Earth. This is the shoreline of Antarctica. Most of it is a 200-foot tall plateau that comes to the edge of the water. Okay. So, a ship next to this is tiny, like way down here. And this is the shoreline of our world. It is the container of our pond, right? The world is a giant pond that we live in. And the container, the edge of that pond, the land that is higher, is Antarctica. So when people say there's no photos, there's videos, plenty of them online to see.
Derek is actually he's a stellar photographer, but he also did security service for the Queen of England as well as Metallica. So he's he's traveled the globe himself. And but the question about the photos, he's always scouring the internet for stuff like that. So I'm gonna just keep going, Dave. I'm gonna go. We've got just so many questions here, so I'm gonna have to. I'm not gonna take them all in, but I think
let's go through them. And here's the thing. I'm just today, the people listening, there's answers to every single question you have. I can't portray them all here, but you can find them yourself online, not easily, because if you Google flat Earth, you're going to find nothing. You're going to find complete and total crap. You're going to get all of the propaganda that they put out there, right? But my app, the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app, it's $3. Oh my God, he's here selling an app.
No, go ahead.
I know, but I'm telling you, just go read the reviews on the app. The app, every day there's a new featured video on the app, and all I tell people is, get the app, $3, right? One-time charge, and you do not have to subscribe. Do not subscribe to the app. The app has a $11 a year subscription. Do not subscribe to it unless you want to use the friend finder and send messages to other flat earthers. Otherwise, you don't need to. every day there's a new video. Watch the video every day for 2 weeks. At the end of that 2 weeks, if you still think the Earth is a globe, send me an email with one proof and you win 3 Bitcoins. I'm offering 3 Bitcoins for one proof of the globe. But before you send it to me, you have to hit this little question mark button right here. And when you hit that, up come all the questions you're going to ask. Hey, what about eclipses? What about the Coriolis effect? What about seasons? We talked about seasons. What about ships over the horizon? And if I click that, up come a list of videos that Google will not serve you. And if you watch these videos, you'll be like, oh, that's how it works. That's what I'm seeing. Now I understand, right? And so check that out. There's tons of other resources in here. There's stuff on mud floods. There's all sorts of resources. All of my interviews are right here. Good stuff. There's an endless amount of information. If you like books, there's books in here. All sorts of stuff.
How many books have you wrote?
Check it out. I've made one book, and it's more of a picture book.
Yeah.
But it's really good, and I don't really sell it because it's too expensive.
It makes sense.
It's $150. Okay,
Yeah.
Wow.
but it's a great friggin' book.
Yeah. Can we preview it anywhere, Dave?
There's a channel called That Flat Fellow. They do street activism, and they have one of the books, and they often show it to people, and people freak out and love it. But I did have a video. You know what? I did make a new edition of it. I will do another paging through of it video.
Yeah,
the problem with that is people see it and they're like, I want the book. And I'm like, it's $150. They're like, $150. And I want to have the conversation. Okay. Yeah. It's a hardcover, high quality coffee table book. But the beauty of it is you put it on your coffee table and you invite some poor innocent guests over for dinner or whatever. And they accidentally pick up the book and they're like, shit, I went to Dave and Page's for dinner and now I'm a flat earther.
I actually heard that podcast where you left a book out or something, and somebody said, "Well, I guess I'm a flat earther."
That's my two nephews.
Leafing through it.
Yeah.
But you know what? I have to say though, like you're definitely one of the most entertaining guests that we've had because you're very prepared. I can't believe how fast you're. Somebody will ask a question, you'll throw up an ice wall, and have it readily available. So you're obviously very in tune with the topic and what you're doing here. So that alone, I mean, 50% of me is like, wow, I have to believe you because you're.
So here's the thing: do not believe me. I'm just pointing towards some doors. Like when I looked into flat Earth, I saw all the stuff about boats over the horizon. I'm like, wait a minute, let me look at this. And I'm like, well, the Earth is so big we can't see the curve, but we do see boats go over the horizon. And I watched all these videos of boats disappearing from the bottom up. I'm like, well, I know they're too far, but why are they disappearing from the bottom up? And then I started looking at other reasons why boats can disappear from the bottom up. And I'm not as fast as you think.
It's all right, man.
So where did it go?
Over the horizon. Everyone was though.
I'm half of a flat earther right now, so
yeah. So when you see a boat disappear, it's because of several things. Atmosphere, because of the little waves in the foreground. It's because the angular resolution of the boat is too small to see. Now, a glober would tell you that that's behind the curve, but it's not. It's just too far for your eye to resolve, right? So that boat isn't too far away. So
just
here's a little task you can do. So there's a matchbox on the far end of that table, and as I zoom in, there it is. You can see it. Yeah. So the mirage from the table, the glare from the table, and the angular size together will hide it. It's still there, okay? And if I lift my viewing height up, now I can see it, and I can even see the table beyond it.
Right.
Okay? And that's because I have a higher angle of view. Things disappear from the bottom up because that's where the lowest angle is. Think about this. And I'm gonna redo this. And we had the video, but it was lost when YouTube did this.
It's like when the sun sets. It's the bottom disappears first.
Well, that's because it's going behind. Like this is a cloud deck at 10,000 feet, but in the distance, it's right at your eye level, and then the sun just goes away and it disappears. Imagine if you're sitting right next to a 5 foot tall fence. Well, the top of the fence is over. You could barely reach it if you're sitting. And if somebody 6 feet tall was standing on the other side of the fence, you'd be able to see them. But now if you move yourself 50 feet away from that fence, well, the top of that fence is now at your eye level. Well, it's still above you, but perspective puts it at your eye level. And then that person, when they walk away, their head disappears from the bottom up, just like that. And they're not going below it. It's all due to perspective. And that's how the sun sets.
It absolutely is. I agree with that 100%. It is perspective. When you go to an optometrist and they're flicking around their lenses and everything, what's actually happening there. And if you squint, if you have a bit of a eye correction you need, and you squint and you start to focus in and see things clearly, it's playing with the light. So there's what you say is I believe that. However, what part of the world are you in, Dave?
Connecticut.
Yeah.
Oh, right, Connecticut. Yes, I've been there actually. I've been to a concert at your casino. So what I did this week was I looked at. I was talking to Derek just before the show, but I looked at elevations between. We're in Toronto area of Canada, so. We have this thing called the Golden Horseshoe, which loops around to Niagara Falls, New York, and whatnot. But so if you're we're on one side of Lake Ontario, the north side, and Niagara Falls is directly. If I was to take a boat across, I would wind up in Niagara Falls. But if you're in Niagara Falls, you cannot see. Like depending where you are, you start to lose sight of Toronto. You start to lose sight. Is that Seattle or is that Toronto?
Seattle.
Okay. So, but and this exact thing is happening here, right? So I actually went and I started to look at elevations between Niagara Falls, Canada, and all the way up to Sudbury and north of Sudbury. And the elevations are considerably different, right? There's a lot of range between that, which would suggest that that possibly as you go further south, the elevations actually seem to be a bit higher, which is strange, but it does indicate a curve, right? So if you there's a long stretch of highway that runs from Highway 11 in Toronto all the way up to northern Ontario, and if you start to look at those elevations, it starts to show a slight curve, right? But we're talking span of maybe 1,000 kilometers, right? 800 miles or so. Right. So I guess it's kind of hard to I think your point about the Earth being flat with a depth obviously to it, that can make some sense of the differences in the elevations. Obviously, we have mountains, we have all that stuff. What I'm still trying to wrap my head around, are we floating on a almost like a cookie that's in a globe, and you agree that we're maybe under we could be under some kind of a globe or dome, and then as that dome maybe turns and shifts, we stay flat. We're balanced in there, right?
Here's the thing. All of the stars are fixed in their position in the sky. If you go out tonight at a certain time and do a little star chart, right? Sit in a set spot, draw a little star chart. Next year, same night, same time, go out and every star will be in the exact same position. Okay, that is impossible in the heliocentric beehive nonsense. Let me show you this first, and then I'm going to show you how impossible that is. So as you look into the distance here, the air just becomes so thick you can't see through it. Like looking through water in a long pool, you can't see the far end of that pool. But if there was a light on the far end of that pool, you might be able to see the light. But even after a distance, you can't see that light anymore. So this is a famous viewing spot in Lazar, France, and out here is Mount Canigou, 175 miles away. Well, using the Earth curve calculator based on the globe model, the top of Mount Canigou should be a mile, more than a mile, below the curve of the Earth. So you should not be able to see it. Well, the light that's bouncing off of Mount Canigou cannot push all the way through the atmosphere because it's not strong enough. It's not bright enough. But twice a year during the sun's migration in between Capricorn and Cancer, it lines up with the viewing spot and the mountain. And as it goes away, its light is strong enough and it backlights Mount Canigou, and all of a sudden you can see Mount Canigou. Now, right here, the highest point of Mount Canigou should be a mile below the curvature. Okay. Now, the globe, fanboys will say, well, the sun in this picture, in this video, already set, and it's below the horizon along with the mountain, but it's refracting up and it's stopping at eye level magically because we live in a magical world. Okay. But this is not a mirage. As you can see, the mountain is blocking the sun because the sun is just going away behind it, right? And this almost looks like it's at eye level, but it's really much higher than their viewing point, and it's because it's over a flat plane. Interesting, right?
Well, it makes sense. All
right, so now let me show you another reason why the sun would set. Okay, so here, this is my drone here. It has to be below freezing, perfectly clear, perfectly beautiful, not a single chemtrail in the sky. And I watched the sun in 5 minutes time. It went down, 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 down. Now, if we were spinning, we would just keep on going down, but it didn't. It went down, 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 and it stopped. And it sat here, and this is sped up. It sat here for 10 minutes. And it never went below the horizon. It just faded into the thickness of the atmosphere. Okay. Now my friends were at the beach and they saw the sunset from the bottom up 10 minutes earlier. And that's because in their distance was a tree line, which is 200 feet above their head, looked like at its eye level, and the sun just went below those trees, went beyond the trees and set. And that's what they saw. But I'm still looking at the sun. Okay. And now the sun's light can't even push through. The sun is a local light.
Yeah.
A local source of electricity. I'm not even saying it's a source of heat. It's sending electricity here that excites the air molecules. That's why it's colder up top, higher, because there's less air molecules. The air is denser here, and it's light when it's close. It heats us up. It's like, I don't know, like a Tesla coil, if you will. And solar panels collect that electricity. They're not collecting photons and bouncing electrons. They're collecting electricity.
So what if you're in an airplane, 30,000 feet up? What does the sunset look like in an airplane? I've never had a chance to see it.
Yeah. So
is it the same as down here? Or because you're at a higher advantage, it would be more like that, it would fade away.
Yeah, you're seeing the sun. I have a where is it? The when you're up high and you'll see the sun for a longer distance, a longer light. Where did I have that?
I just want to answer AJ's question here because I think I might be able to do that. Yes, they do, Doctor. Lots of videos live. Watch pretty much anything on the jets going into 911. That's what I have to say about doctored stuff.
I've got a really, really awesome 3-hour documentary on, I think it's called "What Happened on the Way to the Moon."
Yeah, a funny thing happened on the way to the moon.
Yes,
and there's some questions about some of that stuff, like and how that footage fell into Bart Sabrell's hands. That's another thing. But this is a flight from California to Germany. So California, think about it. Germany kind of cuts up towards the North Pole and cuts across to the other side. And the entire time, the sun just stayed like right there. Now down here, it's nighttime. It's nighttime because they can't see the sun anymore. But the higher up you are, the farther you can see the sun. So this plane's flying, I think, at like 40,000 feet. And the sun never set. It went all the way over to Germany. When they got there, the sun came around and rose. Okay, so it's just circling around, and they're chasing the sun. I call this.
Yeah.
So that's how it happens. And now there's another guy. I gotta find. We've been trying to find him. I don't believe that the sun's light, even in the clearest conditions, if you're up at a high point, can throw its light that far. It's light doesn't go for billions and trillions of years and miles. That's nonsense. And it just goes a certain distance. It's kind of like a radio signal. It pitters out after a certain distance, right? So you can't see the sun, even if it's still there. You can't see it. But this guy supposedly filmed it with a special camera that looked at the sun in a different wavelength. and you can see the sun the whole way around. Now, I don't have all the details. Again, very interesting. I want to find out what kind of camera he used and how he filmed
Okay.
it and verify
Yep.
it. But very interesting, something to look into.
So, fun fact, I think Robert's calling me a dumbass because I said about elevations in a curve. But that's okay because, like there is some science behind this. And actually, Dave, what I think I'm starting to become attached to is like some of your explanations make a lot of sense to me coming from more of an engineering field. And you're backing those up with, I think some
Basic science.
some data points. So the thing I'm not convinced about, although is it's sort of your story kind of broadens out to other things happening, right? Like could we be part of some kind of a dome population, aliens, and all of that stuff? Which, by the way, I do believe that in that theory, but. So I guess my point is it's really hard. We had a conspiracy theorist on here a few times, and it's sometimes hard to grasp everything at once. Like, I mean, the flat Earth concept, I get it. Whether I agree or not, I still got to do some more research on. Sure. What you're explaining is very compelling. I think you're very articulate with it. You definitely, and I don't, you probably have thousands of fans, but everything that comes around that, like the issues with like, is this all a big ruse that the government is completely controlling us, or some other higher?
Let's talk about that.
The Anunnaki.
Yeah, exactly. Well, who knows, right?
Let's talk about aliens on a flat Earth and aliens in a heliocentric, or what I call a helio-nonsensical Earth.
The only thing that gets me about aliens and then coming to Earth is this whole firmament, right? If there is a firmament, how do they get through
firmament?
Firmament? Yeah, sorry. I think it's
right.
firmament. I'm sorry, I played music. But the firmament. So is it like a jelly or something? Or like how do they get through it?
It's made from Jello, not jelly. Okay? Jello. All right. So that's a great question, and the answer is I don't know, right? But the second law of thermodynamics says that you have to have a container to have air pressure. So how do we have air pressure if we're not in a container? And the analogy I use is, think of a pot of water boiling and that bubble's forming on the bottom. Now put yourself as a little microscopic guy in that bubble. You're standing on the flat bottom, and there's a dome above you with water above you, but there's no physical dome. There's just air pressure. So is it something like that? Maybe. Is it a physical, harder dome? Maybe. We had a unconfirmed whistleblower from NASA that quickly disappeared when he gave us too much information, in my opinion. But again, can't confirm any of it. That said that he says the higher you get, it gets thicker. It becomes like plasma, and then it becomes liquid, and then it becomes thicker, and then it becomes solid, right? And that, to me, makes a lot of sense. And
once you get through that, is that what black matter is? Is that jelly stuff?
Well, no, I don't. When Jello, I was just kidding about
that.
Yeah,
no, yeah.
We don't know. But there's also, like, in the app, if you hit what about Antarctica, and then there's some videos on sky ice, which is this dark blue, this deep blue, sky colored blue ice that doesn't melt; it evaporates. Okay, It goes straight from ice to vapor, right? Which is fascinating. Some people think it's just frozen oxygen. Maybe that's what's going on. All sorts of information about that stuff. Super cold ice that they can't even take away from Antarctica because they have no way to keep it cold enough without it evaporating. So this is the star Sirius, right? Doesn't look like a planet, like a gas ball to me. It kind of looks like something, energetic, something sentient, if you ask me. But let's talk about the heliocentric description of stars. The closest star is Alpha Centauri, 25 trillion miles away. That is the closest star by far, and the other ones are magnitudes farther away. 25 trillion miles, okay? I don't know if you guys have listened, but I'm going to use this analogy again. 25 trillion miles. If you were in a rocket ship going going a mile per second, that's 3,600 miles an hour. That's faster than any human has ever gone, 3,600 miles per hour. If you were traveling for 1 trillion seconds at a mile per second, you've gone 1 trillion miles. Are you following me? Very simple.
Yep.
Yes. Okay. So, and if it's 25 trillion miles away, you've traveled 1 trillion seconds, you're 1/25th of the way to the closest star. You with me?
Right. Yep.
How long have you been traveling? How long is that 1 trillion seconds?
Yeah, that's a lot.
How long? Do you have any idea how long that is?
Not off the top of my head, but I know it's a lot.
31,000 years. Okay.
There you go.
At a speed faster than any human's ever gone, 31,000 years, which probably doesn't even exist because I don't even know if the Earth has been here nearly that long. And you're 1/25th of the way to the closest star. That would be impossible to see, by the way, which we can see with our naked eye. Angular resolution limits and the inverse square law of light would say it is impossible to see that star. That's the closest star. And that's only if the alien was lucky enough to live on a planet surrounding that fictitious star. Okay. Or maybe, just maybe, there's more land, extra territory here, just a couple thousand miles away, that a conventional airplane can get them there and back in the same day. Okay.
Well, with having this chart that you're showing here, this would almost explain different dimensions, multiverse, whatever, too, right?
I'm not even talking that. I'm talking humans living out here that probably speak English. Okay. This world is much smaller than they're telling. Well, not smaller. Everything's much closer than they're telling us. Okay. There's a book, and it's in the app. It's also, you can find out someone reading it online, called The Iron Republic. Right, about a politician in the late 1800s who was just fed up, sold everything, bought a big ship, got a crew, and went exploring Antarctica and found an opening like here, and ended up, they went through it, and then they were back out in the water. They were lost. They couldn't navigate. They were lost for a month, and they came across some more land, and they saw a city, and they pulled up, and a boat came out and met them, and they spoke English, and he tells the whole story about, this is in 1901. This story was written, a series of articles in Florida Magazine, and it's about this advanced society. And they found out that the people that lived there were tired of the tyranny that was going on here in the 1600s. All right, in the 1600s, there was tyranny. Could you imagine that tyranny here? And then they decided to leave and defect. Well, maybe all of this control, all of the reason they have us believing we live on a ball is so nobody tries to escape anymore, because they want us here. Here's the reason. Why the lie? Why would they lie about the globe? And it's because the globe keeps us in the matrix, in the mind matrix. It keeps us locked in their prison. Okay. It keeps us believing that we're insignificant, that we're in the middle of the biggest nothing with trillions of other specks of nothing out there, where we're not special, and we're flying through a godless or distant God universe, when the truth of the matter is we are at the center of creation. We are powerful spiritual beings that nobody has dominion over us. Nobody has any control over us. And here's the good news. The good news is they're not allowed to steal your free will. They're not allowed to do anything to you without your permission. But here's the thing. They always tell us what they're doing. And if we're too stupid to say no, by law, we're saying yes. Okay? So anybody that goes and gets the jibby jabby, that's their own doing. Now, they may have coerced you and all of this other stuff, but nobody yet, I say yet, has been forced to. They've been coerced, but what's going on now is insanity. And if people don't wake up really soon, we're going to go into 1,000 years of slavery. And
they're using fear tactics, and that is the fastest way to change anybody's mind about anything. Scare the shit out of them, and they'll go for it. Right.
So just finishing up on the flat Earth is the extraterrestrials. They're right here. They're here. Look at the words: extra, more, terra, more land, territory, extra land. From where? Not the inner space, the outer space. So if somebody came from here, technically they're an extraterrestrial from outer space. Okay?
Right.
Boom. Boom. That's it. Right? Now, if you don't believe in aliens, okay, take it off the table. Now, the extra dimension things, yeah, there's, when people say aliens, I think that more like demons and angels and spirits,
Right.
a whole other realm, which I don't even want to say that, I can't prove any of it. I believe it because I've had personal experiences, but again, not anything that I'm really getting into. Extraterrestrials, absolutely. Do our controllers that really control the puppet families that are the Rothschilds and all of these families that control us, they probably live in the lands outside of Antarctica, outside of our known world.
Right. Hey, Dave, okay, couple of things. So Richard has a question. He's saying, Ringo, ask your guest if the sun moves side to side like his kitchen string demo, or does it spiral in and out like the video? He said with like an hour hand. If it spirals, can he pop up a chart and show us how that goes? So if you got some collateral there to look at, that would be great. What I'm going to do is take a very short break.
Back to the watch.
We're going to switch to George.
Which you can buy this for $3.
Right.
Yep. But
One-time fee.
Get that. But hang on a second. Get ready to answer that question. I'm going to flip to George for a minute. And George is going to show us his backside, which is album trivia that we do usually at the beginning of the show every week. And we'll get really chastised if we miss out on it.
All right.
George,
you want me to answer the spiral question first, or are we doing that first?
Yeah, we're just gonna. He just shows us the cover, so bring that in a little bit, George, and then everybody can stew on it. Okay, there's your album cover. We're back to Dave.
Back to Dave.
And answering Richard's question. How does the sun move?
So let me speed it up here. So the sun goes around, and at 6 months it spirals in. So I'm going to jump it a month at a time, right? So right now we're in December. A month forward, it just slowly goes in. So we're in March, April. So March, we were over the equator, which is the red line. And now we're going farther in, May, and it's almost all the way in. And then June, it's over the Tropic of Cancer. And then that's the closest it gets to the inner Arctic region. And then it starts spiraling out. July, August, September, right? In September, we're at the equinox again, halfway in, halfway out. It's over the equator. And if you look at the day and night, it's about half and half. Yep. And that has to do with the optics of the dome. Another reason I believe in the dome is because it's the way the light wraps around the dome. When I move the sun all the way out to December, you'll see that the light kind of wraps around. And as you bring it out to that dome, it wraps around the dome, and we could do demonstrations with dome surfaces and lights where the light will wrap around. I could quickly show you day night. So here we go with this is the day. This is time and date, shows you converted to an AE map, how the sun and the moon circulate, and then the shape of the light. And if I jump this forward, let me see if this is the one. You'll see when the sun gets out farther, actually it's moving in there. This is when it's over Tropic of Cancer, I believe. And then when we go out, it wraps the other way. So now you have the sun kind of wrapping around. Here, this will be easier to say. If you look at here, this is the AE map showing the day and night patterns. You see how the light wraps around here? Well, when I move this little source light out, we kind of get that same wrapping. And that would explain the 24 hours of daylight in some areas of Antarctica in December. But there's no 24 hours of sunlight. That's where you actually see the sun. The daylight is the sky. You know, like if the sun rises on the east side of your house, you can go read the newspaper. Not that you should ever read a newspaper on the west side of your house, and that's when the sun is being blocked by your house. But the daylight, which is the fluorescence of the sky, the dome or the atmosphere up there fluorescing from the electricity of the sun, that's where we get our blue sky. And if you look at the gases that are up there that are most prevalent is nitrogen. Nitrogen fluoresces blue.
So how do we get northern lights then? Is that just another?
So northern lights are an electrical phenomena. You know, if you look at at the center of the flat Earth, we have the magnetic North Pole. The Earth plane itself has a testable, measurable negative charge to it, and the sky has a positive charge. So the magnetic forces going through positive, negative charges is creating all sorts of electrical phenomena, including the things that we call meteors. Right? Meteors are electrical phenomena. They're not grains of sand and rocks falling to Earth and burning up. Think about this. The space shuttle, when it comes in, remember the space shuttle that blew up because one tile was missing?
Challenger?
Right, the Challenger blew up on the way out, supposedly,
yeah.
right? That's another bunch of crap. But coming in, you know how it burned? It's like the bottom of it's red hot as it's coming in, right? Because of the air and everything. Well, that thing's coming in at like 2,000 miles an hour. But meanwhile, the entire ship goes up at 25,000 miles an hour. Okay? And it doesn't need a heat shield on the way up. It's so ridiculous, the nonsense that.
So what is it? Friction?
They're lie. It's a lie. When we
just a lie altogether. Yeah.
It's just a complete and total lie all over. When you really look at this, watch this thing wobble. Watch it wobble. It's blowing around in the wind. You know why it's blowing around in the wind? Look at it. It's wobbling because it's
isn't this jet on?
Excuse me. It's a balloon. Well, this actually, I have it repeating here, but it wobbled before it took off because this thing is a blimp. Okay, this thing is a friggin' blimp, and they don't want you to know that this is just a show. The people that are watching this, watch, they're going to cut over the people, right? So this is just before it takes off. And they're going to show you people. These people are so far away they can't even see the thing, okay? But they make it look like they're right there. I mean, it's so far away. It's the size of an ant, and it's behind a row of trees.
Dave,
they can't see it. Go ahead.
I've been to Cape Canaveral several times actually, but it's definitely when you go to the launch pads and that they are very far away. Obviously,
right?
You wouldn't be able to bear the heat from the engines.
But watch that. That's what they tell you. Look at this thing. It goes up and then it goes down again. 4 million pounds doesn't go up and down, and the thrust from that thing would destroy everything. Right.
Right. But what am I seeing when I see a launch? I've seen live launches in person. Right?
So sometimes when you watch a launch, they're launching something. That's when you see a smoke trail. This is a light show and a smoke trail. All of this smoke is coming out of the ground. Right. This is a balloon going up. Now, if you watch it, it's going, I don't know. I don't think it's going over 100 miles an hour at its fastest. Okay. Mm-hmm. This thing's going up. Now, look, they're zooming out to make it seem like it's going fast, going up higher. It's barely moving. Right. And it's going down range. And when it was like 35 miles down range when the solid rocket boosters cut off. Now, those solid rocket boosters, they tell us very many times that you can't turn them off. Well, they're still burning and they cut them off. Why don't they shoot away? And when they cut off, you'll see an explosion, like the explosive bolts or whatever.
Yep.
On the video, you hear it at the same time that you see it. If it was 20 miles down range, 20 miles down range, it would take 90 seconds for that sound to get to you. Right? Thunder, lightning, think about that. 90 seconds. But if you watch, you just Google space shuttle launch, you'll get this exact video. How's this thing going sideways at 17,000 miles an hour? Why, it's still clearly in the atmosphere, right? This is all nonsense, right? If you look at the Challenger, this chunk of this non-aerodynamic garbage can compared to compared to the SR-71, think about that. The SR-71 can only go Mach 3.2, but this thing can go Mach 25 or Mach 33. Right? You with me?
Yeah, Dave, I get that. I mean,
right.
But
pretty interesting, AJ. I saw that.
Yeah, and AJ, is kind of insisting that.
Well, I know AJ. He lives in the U.S. and he's right into this, and he works there. So
he works with satellites. So
yeah,
what about these guys? Go ahead.
Yeah, but hang on a sec. Back to your explanation though about coming back in the atmosphere in the bottom of the space shuttle heating up. Well, you're going to have that effect because obviously you're coming into oxygen, and this is where you're going to get fire and you're going to get heat. Where when it takes off and it goes out of the atmosphere into space, that's a vacuum, right? So you can't ignite in a vacuum.
So how do you? Well, first, for it to the escape velocity, I think is like 25,000 miles an hour.
Right.
But let's just say, the ISS is going 17,000 miles an hour. So let's say it just goes to 17,000 miles an hour. If you time how long those rockets are going for and 17,000 miles an hour, it's got to increase speed by 200 miles an hour every 5 seconds. Okay. Or it'll never make it to that speed before the engines burn out. Okay.
Right.
So 200 miles an hour every 5 seconds. Well, add it up. A minute later, it's already going faster than its return speed, and it's still well within the atmosphere because it goes up, it curves over, and it goes right out of sight. It goes out over the ocean, and that's basically where it crashes out of in the Bermuda Triangle where there's no people out there, and they show you a cartoon of something going into space. You don't see anything, even the people that are there.
Okay. No. Okay. This is really interesting, and I've seen both sides. I hear it. Even some of our fans, some agree, some disagree, but I myself, I have something to throw at you, Dave.
Shoot.
It's a question I always have. I followed a lot of the space launches, the lunar stuff that we're doing, the exploration. Now, we have been to the moon many, many, many times. All right, this is what we're supposed to see what's going on, right? So this is me now. Yeah. All right, we've been on the moon. We've right there, the picture you just put up. We've left so much crap on the moon: launch pads, vehicles, all the stuff. Right now, they sell telescopes everywhere. Like Ringo said earlier, he bought himself a really expensive telescope. And some of the stuff that we could buy now, we could look out into space and we can see things we've never seen before with our eye. My question is, why can we not see any of the stuff that's supposedly on the moon with our telescopes?
Because it's too small. I'm just being a NASA fanboy. Absolutely right. Here's the thing. Anybody that usually the litmus test I do, like if somebody I'm not sure about a show, I'm like, do you believe we went to the moon? And if they say yes, I'm like, I'm not interested in talking to you guys because you're such baby truthers. It's beyond belief. The moon landing, it's like the moon landing is the fakest thing ever. It's the dumbest thing ever, right? I mean, there's so many problems with it. You can't believe it. What are the odds all of these guys get together just before the moon landing in 1965, right?
Mm-hmm.
NASA and NASA administrators, Stanley Kubrick,
Kubrick give a statement saying that it's all fake, that he filmed it.
Yeah, what? There is footage going around, and it's not real. It's not really Kubrick, and it was put out to so they can debunk. You're like, oh, you guys thought that was real. It was from a movie. And people still show it as real. Just a matter of fact, the other day, who was it? Jeff Berwick from Dollar Vigilante showed a clip. Now, he thought it was real. It doesn't mean that, yes, Kubrick did film the moon landings. Okay. But the clip that they showed us wasn't real. So
Dave, can I ask you something a little bit off course here? Because I'm curious, when you started to talk about aliens, we probably have a lot to relate to there. But what do you think of Bob Lazar?
Bob Lazar, again, cool story. I say cool story, bro, when talk about him. It could, I don't know. I don't know enough. Maybe some of what he's saying is true. I don't know. He's the guy he's the one that worked on the engines on the
yeah, he reverse engineered propulsion.
Cool story. Great
UFOs.
story.
Yeah.
Great story.
Yeah, I mean, but I guess where I was going with it, like things that he claimed 30 years ago, and he's been rock solid on his story pretty much ever since, and he's been psychoanalyzed by, he's just been through the ringer. But
he also might be, under hypnosis and believe everything he's saying. I don't know.
Well, yeah, but there's some artifacts that have come up that, like the hand scanner, which, I guess our hand bones are unique lengths and whatnot. So, he talked about the scanner, that it was all talk back then, but they were able to retrieve one from some kind of military auction. But a lot of technology and things that he talked about back then, it's proven to be, with these artifacts, real, right? So they definitely lend a lot of weight to his story. But then on the flip side of it, and where I'm going with this is that I've watched that many, many times. I watched iterations of it, people kind of debunking it, whatever. But at the end of the day, it really raises the question about, have aliens been here? Probably. We've seen the disclosure stuff.
Aliens from the outer space.
Outer space. But to your point, if the Earth is flat and we've got boundaries, okay, then these aliens are.
I'm not saying that the boundaries. Maybe the dome doesn't connect. Maybe there's certain times where there's astral alignments where it opens up, where if it did connect, maybe there's ways to get through. Maybe it's just an extended plane with a ceiling over us, and there's other puddles, there's other worlds, other suns,
or they come up from the ocean, right? I mean,
there's lots of maybes. So I don't think that we're trapped inside of a dome. I believe that we are within a pressurized system,
right?
And then the whole thing, space being an infinite vacuum. Well, why doesn't the infinite vacuum suck all the air off of Earth? And the only answer you can come up with is gravity, right? But that's ridiculous, because I can take the weak, low pressure of my lungs, not even a vacuum, and I could suck water and air up and away from gravity right here, closest to gravity. Gravity's less up there, farther away you get. Why doesn't it suck all the air away? You can't have high pressure next to no pressure without a physical barrier. You can't have air pressure without a container. And so we are in a container of some sorts. And I don't believe space is space. I believe space is water. NASA talks about the Sea of Tranquility, ships and docking. Everything they talk about is nautical terms, right?
Right.
When you have, these guys are wearing fucking snowboarding suits. Okay, it's absolutely ridiculous. You put something in a vacuum chamber. There's a challenge Mark Sargent has to go into and get a spacesuit on and go into a vacuum chamber with another astronaut and have them suck all the air out. First, the suit would explode, but they did it once with the guy, and before they even got all the vacuum, air out of the system, the guy passed out and his tongue started to boil.
Yeah.
Excuse me. His tongue started to boil.
Yeah, I mean, I've questioned that myself. Like, if you look at the pressures that they would be dealing with, the suits look kind of lame for that. I see our friends out on Twitch are tuning in and YouTube as well. So thanks for doing that. And so Richard, he keeps coming back with a similar question. He wants you to go to the edge of the Earth and prove it for us with
I already showed you can't do that with the boat.
Well, he showed. You said earlier on, there's your ice wall. Let's say there is that ice wall all the way around the big donut, and it's too high for ships to see over, so you can't see past it. But again, how about airplanes?
Yeah.
You know, when you're up in an airplane or even, okay, the videos that show us from space, you might be different. They show Earth as a sphere, but let's say someone's on Earth, on flat Earth, they get in a plane, they're close to the edge where that ice wall is.
So they're not going to get there. That's the problem. The problem is you're not allowed.
So why
to
not? Why can't they get there?
Yeah, I'll tell you why. Because the farthest you're allowed to go is 60 degrees south. So where's 60 degrees south? It's this pink line right here. And that could be 1,000 miles from Antarctica. Well, as we know, you can only see, even from altitude, a couple hundred miles. You can't see 1,000 miles. And then when you get to Antarctica, it could be 5,000 miles farther of Antarctica, or 10 or 20,000 miles before you get to the edge of Antarctica. And there's mountains in the distance in Antarctica that they claim are higher than Mount Everest. Why don't they talk about that in school? Okay. Yeah. And maybe that's where the dome connects. I don't know. Okay. I don't know, because we're not allowed to go there. But let's say they allowed you to go there. Let's say, hey, we're all taking the day off. Feel free. How are you going to navigate? GPS doesn't work down there. Compasses don't work there. There's very little light out there. It's cold. There's no place to refuel, no place to get food. There's no place to land. You know, how are you even going to navigate out there? That's the problem. So they don't let you. And then I showed you that boat that went there. They did a test with an airplane that flying and ignoring the restrictions, and 2 fighter jets were on its wings within minutes, and saying that they're going to shoot it out of the sky unless they turn around. But you talk about guarding it. I was telling you before.
So they have more military forces way out on the perimeter of our so-called flat Earth than they do anywhere else, just to keep us in.
Well, yeah, we're back
100%. Let me.
We're back to the Truman theory, though, right? Because Truman would move off in his boat, and all of a sudden a storm would come, and he'd head back, right? And then
that's a movie, and it's not quite the case, but
it's the same idea.
No, well, not exactly. So I'm trying to find the Antarctic Treaty here.
Just it is 20 after 11, so we will have to wrap up.
We're gonna wrap it up, but let me just find this one thing. So there's
my God, though, this topic could go on forever.
I know.
So here is these islands. These 8 islands are where the military bases are. Remember the Falklands War, right? That was off of Santiago. I think number 2 is the Falklands. Yeah, number 2 is off of South America. And these are military bases that protect all of these lands. And all out here, there's buoys. There's thousands of buoys which form a network of radar, and that because there's no place to put towers out there because there's no land, right? So this is all completely monitored. And the problem is, if anybody goes out there, they will find out we don't live on a globe, period, right? There may be cities of people in Antarctica that we're unaware of that are separated from us. Okay. They're not allowed to communicate with us. That's what one whistleblower said. Again, we have no proof of it. But again, we're trying to figure out what's going on, what else is out there, what's above us. That's all fun and games, right? But to prove the Earth is a flat, stationary plane, that's easy. We can do that right here, by ourselves. So one thing I like to show at the beginning, and let me just show you right now, and then we'll wrap it up. It's to believe that we live on a spinning ball. You have to believe that we are spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. That when you watch the sunset, it's because you're falling over backwards faster than the speed of sound. Just think about that. We're orbiting the sun at 66,000 miles an hour. We're chasing the sun at 500,000 miles per hour. Okay, right? Think about those speeds. Let me show you what that is. This is the Hypersonic Sled. It's going to go by a Mach 8.6. Watch. Did you see it? You can't even see it. That's awesome. Mach 8.6. Okay. Yeah. So that is 10 times faster than the orbit. That's the orbit of the Earth is 10 times faster than this. And we're chasing the sun at 100 times this speed. But somehow when we go out in nature, we have lakes that are perfect glass. What does this lake tell you, right? What does this lake tell you? Does this lake tell you
everything
that
is nice and calm and still?
It's spinning, whirling, and twirling. And, Neil deGrasse Tyson, the failed actor, says that the water bulges at the equator 14 miles high because of the spin. How come this lake isn't sloshing? Okay? We're twirling and whirling 10 times and 100 times faster than that hypersonic sled. And we have lakes that look like this. Okay? Give me a break, guys. Give me a break. It's like, we're indoctrinated to believe that we live on this globe before we can talk. All of the children's programming, all of the movies, everything. It's all about making you believe that you live in this insane world, because they don't want you knowing the truth. They don't want you escaping the mind matrix. They want you believing in this godless world that keeps you powerless. They want you not knowing where you are, who you are, what you are, or more importantly, the power of your mind, because we all have the ability to take back our world tonight, right? If everyone just tonight said, no, screw you, government, go stick it up your ass, right? Well, it's over. They've got nothing. They've got nothing except order followers, right? The only reason the world is so screwed up right now is because people are complying, right? They're laughing their asses off at us because they're like, look at these stupid sheep. They'll do anything we say, Yeah,
we call them sheeple.
Yeah, well, that is exactly the case. And people are like, well, the first two didn't work, so now you got to get a booster, and then you got to get another booster because the boosters will make it work, right? It is the dumbest crap ever. And well, you already got the jibbity jab, so it's making it so it's a little better, where you'd be much sicker. Well, you know what? I have a pet rock. I have a lucky rock, and it stops me from getting into car crashes. And I went for a drive, and I came back, and I didn't crash my car, and that's because of my lucky rock. But my friend also has a lucky rock, and he totaled his car, and he ended up in the hospital. And he realized if he didn't have his lucky rock, he probably would have died. Okay, this is the same logic that they're using. Okay, with this complete and total and utter nonsense. And if you look at the moronic, which is an anagram for Omicron, here are the symptoms for the moronic, the top 5 symptoms. Well, they used to match what we call the common cold and the flu. Okay, this is ridiculous. The last thing I'm going to say on this, the CDC says that natural immunity is 50 times better than injectable immunity, and it lasts a lifetime. Well, Omicron basically is like a week colder flu. Why don't we all have a big party and get it, and in 2 weeks this entire thing is done worldwide?
Exactly.
It's all a bunch of bullshit. Now, don't get me wrong. People are getting sick. People are getting sick, but the mainstream won't tell you that 4 out of 5 people that are severely sick are the ones that got the jibby jab. And if you look at, I challenge anybody to go to Open VAERS, VARES, VAERS or VARES, VAERS, Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. At openvaers.com, they just updated. It's over the number of people that have died because of the jibby jab is over 20,000 people, I believe, in just the United States alone. It is absolute insanity what's going on, and people have lost their minds because they're lost in space, spinning out of control. They don't know who they are, where they are, or what they are. Yeah. And the final thing I'll say before I shut the fuck up, excuse my language, is get the app. It's $3. But one other thing I want to show you on the app. That's not the app. That's
the last thing I heard, Dave, was that number globally, and this was months ago, was over 35,000.
Yeah, and it's supposedly between 1% and 10% of the actual number, because it's very difficult to report on VAERS. Most doctors that even know about it don't like reporting on it, and the majority of doctors don't even know what VAERS is.
I'm scanning right now, Dave.
Yeah, so look, these are all of the flat earthers that are near me. Not even all of them. These are just a small percentage. These are the flat earthers that are near me. I can touch on a dot, and I could pull up that person's information and send them a message, or I could say, set my radius for 50 kilometers. And in 50 kilometers, there's 255 people. And I could send them a group message. Hey, having a party at Joe's Pizzeria on 123 Main Street on Saturday. Come on, come one, come all. Bam, instant meetups. And by the way, every single blue dot on here is your best friend because they have so much in common with you. They're awake from the globe lie. They're also awake from the COVID lie. They're awake from everything. And so the app is an amazing way to connect with other people. So there you go.
Awesome.
And wait, by the way, the app's $3 one-time charge. It's 99 cents a month or $11 a month if you want to send messages. You can receive messages. Hey, there's a group party and the guy put this email address in. Great.
Yep.
But you can't send messages unless you subscribe. Basically, you're buying me a margarita and you're forgetting to leave a tip for the bartender. Okay.
Okay. And so
And that's for a year.
where could people get this?
It's called It's called the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app, and it's by Blue Water Bay, and it's available in the App Store, the Apple App Store, and the Google Play Store. But you have to make sure on Google Play by Blue Water Bay. Look for this icon because there's already a knockoff by the Flat Earth Society people. It's called the Ron Media Group. And they basically are trying to gatekeep you by getting their app, which sucks. So if you get their app, fine. Just don't send me an email telling me my app sucks.
And people with smartphones, so they know, put your phone up to this picture with the camera and take a picture of that. You'll see it turn yellow. Click on it.
And if you're watching this on your phone and you can't do it and you forget the name of the app, all you got to remember is flatearthdave.com. Flatearthdave.com. And the links are right there on the homepage. There's also a link if anyone that has a show or knows of a show that thinks Flat Earth is stupid and wants to have an open discussion like you nice guys did. You can book me there. Just send me an email. Book Flat Earth Dave right at the top, and let's get out to reach more people. You guys were very open-minded already, so you guys are open to the idea. So that's awesome.
So
I
Dave,
love people that think I'm an idiot coming on there, and I completely destroy them.
No, Dave. No. I think, like I said, I prepped a bunch of questions. Some of them through your dialogue and questions people asked. Hit a few of them. I certainly have a lot more. This is a very interesting topic. Definitely would like to have you back on the show at some point in the future, near future. I think, though, my comment, though, about the flat Earth concept is one thing. I think where, you tie in the whole discussion about COVID and all of that and the, aliens and, it becomes very broad, but I get the point. The point is, are we being controlled? Right.
Of course.
Conspiracy. No, well, Heiko, that's, I think, for everybody's opinion. I can tell you that I have 3 very close family members with COVID and not doing very well. And they're very young. In fact, one is 20 years old. So
that's what my wife tells me because she works at the big hospital.
17 friends that have completely died, and at least 5 of them without pre-existing conditions. So I have a different opinion. I think on the vaccine, we don't have to get into all of that. But
let me just add, there is something going on. Okay. Yeah. Now, if you look at here's the problem. Anybody that got the jibby jab, if they're sick, you cannot rule out that that's not what got them sick. Also,
but if you look at the ICU levels, they remain flat. The numbers go up. So it's possible that we're getting getting COVID or the variant, but
how do you know there's a variant if they never identified the original COVID? And how come every time there's a variant, like why isn't anyone getting Delta anymore? All of a sudden, everyone's getting Omicron. It's all made up. Now, don't trust me. There is something out there making people sick. Is it a bioweapon? It might be. It have to do with the 5 letter after F. It very well could be. It could be a combination of all of these. But one thing they're not telling you, they're not telling you go outside, get grounded, get sunlight, take vitamin D, exercise, eat well. They should mandate or everybody eats a salad. Okay, but instead they're giving out free burgers and fries and not closing the liquor stores, but closing the churches and worshiping centers. They're doing everything they can to make you sick. They're separating us. We're humans. We're supposed to be together. We're supposed to be sharing each other's biome. We're supposed to be spreading all of this stuff. They're separating us. They're putting us in fear. They're putting us in financial fear. They're putting us under stress. They're not telling us anything healthy to do. They're restricting any natural medicines. They're censoring the crap out of everybody. So yeah, people are, people are scared to death.
Yes. You are absolutely 100% right. All of that was perfect. So what we should do one day, Dave, I really, really hope we have you back on the show, maybe in a month or two. I hope you're into it.
Sure,
and it's funny, we have she doesn't want to be called a conspiracy theorist, but she wants to be called a truth teller, is Adrian.
I like Adrian.
I think it would be absolutely amazing to get the both of you together, because you're both on the same wavelength, but one of you is from the left, one of you is from the right, but you're both telling us the same story. So I'm into this, man. I love it.
Yeah, I don't think there's a left or right there. I think that she's
no, it's a different. Left or right is a different view.
She looks at the holistic approach, and like, are we being controlled? Right? She goes.
Yes, we are.
One topic to another, and very fluent in it. So very convincing. But at the end of the day, once you start adding reptiles and stuff into it, you start to, like, I think, the flat earther thing. Yes, that let's put a circle around that, right? How it ties into the rest of the shit that's going on and control and everything. Is it all connected? You're going to say yes, Heiko, because
yes, absolutely.
I say it probably isn't connected. But
no, I disagree there. Big
time. Can disagree. You can have an opinion. Yeah, I know. Our opinion here on the Heiko show is that it's not about vaxxers or non-vaxxers. That's bullshit we need to keep aside, because it's
another way to separate us. They separate us by countries, by religions, by sexes, by races, by vaxxed, unvaxxed, by left, political parties.
And as much as I can get on board with aliens and all of that, because of the disclosure that's come out recently and everything, we got to have an even keel here, right? It's not going to, society's not going to eat that up and buy it.
No, and you know what? We are not here telling anybody what to do or what to believe or what to think. And Dave said this earlier, and Adrian has said it. They are telling us things that are not in public announcements or news or anywhere. They're giving us information, and they're telling us to do our own research, right? Don't believe what I'm saying, but go find out for yourself. And that's what people need to start doing, is stop following the masses and start using your brain and go and look into what you think is right.
And the problem is they're hiding this information. It's hidden. And that's what my app does. It bypasses their algorithms. After you watch the daily video, if you're like, hey, give me more, well, the next video that comes up won't be a Google recommended, a propaganda piece. It'll be a video that's a real flat earth video. So you start watching those. What happens is people they get tired. They don't want to wait until the next day. So they hit the archive button, which gives you all of the videos from the last 3 or 4 years. Okay. And then they end up, calling in sick to work because they don't want to go to work because they're just, and then after a couple of days, they send me an email like, I haven't slept in 2 days. My wife thinks I'm crazy. And I'm like, welcome to flat earth. And, and just go from there. And I've never heard a single person that's woken up to flat earth. They go, my life is horrible now. They all go, my life is crazy, but it's better, because they finally realize they've unplugged from the Matrix. It's Neo at the beginning of the movie, the first Matrix, and then Neo at the end of the Matrix, when he's unplugged and he takes back his power. That's what waking up to flat earth does.
And he eats oatmeal instead of a steak. So, I'm
very open-minded. I love to listen to different things, even if it's something I know nothing about, because I like to consume that in my own head and mull it around and come up with a solution. So I'm going to give you my $3 because I want to know more. I'm interested.
Thanks. Watch the video each day, and then I highly recommend hit the web button. And when you have some time, turn off the TV for a week and hit the feature-length videos button there. Feature-length videos, and there's stuff from just 45 minutes to 2 hours. and just start watching those videos. There's no way you can get through a couple of those videos and not realize we don't live on a globe. And it's also they're really well made videos. So check them out.
All right, Dave, challenge accepted.
Thanks.
So I want to
George,
any last words? George has to tell us what the album was.
We'll hold it over till next week.
Are we?
Next week.
Okay, I was going to say, why don't we email the show, or send a message to the show if you have any ideas, and the first one who gets the album, great, and we can pick it up next week.
All right, sounds great, guys.
All right, guys.
So thank you
Dave,
very
great
much,
having you.
Dave, for being on the show today. And I hope you come back again. And I also want to thank all our participating viewers and listeners, which is Deborah, Kathy, Richard, AJ, Daniel, Brian, Melanie, CK, Robert, Kyle, Mitchell, David, Leanne, Christy, and Timothy. You guys rock. I'm glad you guys were part of the show because it was interesting as hell. And I hope you join us again next Monday night at 9:30 on the Heikadelic Show. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's, everybody.
See ya.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Woohoo! That was great.